I do want to talk about affordability because, as we all know, that is something on the minds. You already mentioned it of almost every American. How much are people talking about this in your cities, and what is the sort of top challenge with cost of living for your constituents, Mayor Gloria?
Well, surely your viewers experience this too. The number one consumer of your household income is your housing, right?
Yeah.
And we have millions of units short nationally, a housing deficit. Every city must be endeavoring to do what they can to increase housing production. In my city, we've been successful in more than doubling our annual housing production, which is helping to lead to flattening and in some cases reduction in rents. Still too high, more work to be done. But I believe that mayors can help lead on this issue, but we could certainly use federal partnership to get that done. And I'm hopeful that that can happen. We, from utilities to groceries to gas prices, this is a very top of mind concern. But where I have the most control is on the housing costs, and I'm doing everything I can. And I know that a recent survey of our members said over 80% of mayors are working at the local level to increase housing production to reduce costs to Americans.
Mayor Holt, you talked to Elizabeth Warren about this, the senator from Massachusetts. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so. And right before that, and this is why we think this issue has traction. Right before she and I took the stage at the conference this week, we also heard a message from her co-author, Republican Senator Tim Scott.
And she got on the phone with President Trump about this recently. So what is happening in the world? I don't know.
It shows this issue can be bipartisan, really nonpartisan. It's bringing together certainly mayors, but it seems to even be bringing together people on both sides of the aisle in Congress. And as he said, in my city, my voters just approved in October $50 million in an incentive fund for private developers to build more affordable housing. We've looked at it from the policy issue as well. We just passed a thing that allows, in Oklahoma City, to allow for more accessory dwelling units. So we're looking at all those angles. But as he said, hey, everybody should do everything they can. So what can the federal government do? And that's where the legislation by Senator Warren and Senator Scott comes in, as well as on the House side, we have a bipartisan legislation as well from Congressman Flood and Congressman Cleaver. And we're for it all. We don't want to get in the middle of House and Senate. That's sometimes more poisonous than
bipartisan. Yeah.
So we're not going to get in the middle of that. We're just for all those things. But those bills could definitely help. Not anything that we just talked about is like the silver bullet. Yeah. So let's do it all. But it is the mayoral answer, I think, for the most part, to affordability. I mean, others will tell you different, maybe because they have some different ideas, or maybe their cities have a little different politics. But I think where we get the most unity is working on housing.
Well, I mean, this is, again, a moment where I think what you all see, actually boots on the ground talking to your local communities, might be a little bit different than what some people here in Washington are focused on. Like, what is your message to the administration as they try to work with Congress to build out an affordability agenda? What is your message about how to actually have an impact on people's lives, not just have wave the political victory, but the actual impactful, tangible results for people?
Well, I think it has to be seen as a problem, and sometimes it seems that that's not always clear, but it is in fact an issue.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've heard comments about what this term affordability, it is very real, and it shows up at the first of every month when people are writing rent checks they can't afford, right? And exactly as David was saying, we can do our part at the local level, and we should. We shouldn't be asking for federal assistance if we haven't done the work at home. And that means updating your zoning and codes and permit reform, et cetera. But when we've done that with federal partnership, much like the bipartisan infrastructure law, when we align local with federal, big things can get done, and we ought to do that on this. We have our first president who's a developer by profession. This ought to be a no-brainer. And ultimately, it would drive down costs for Americans, and that would accrue to everyone's benefits. I think there's a way to work together on this, but obviously there are multiple distractions that are taking people in other directions, when I think what Americans want is the ability to keep a roof over their head at a price they can afford.
Pitch him as the real estate guy. He's the real estate expertise, right? What about you, Mayor Holt? What is your message to the federal government on this?
On housing?
On affordability, what it is, what it means, what can actually be done for people.
I think, obviously there are things happening up here that we, whether it's like the Fed's policies or, all the, agriculture, the price of eggs. That's kind of out of our lane. I think our message is going to be a little bit repetitive, but it is that housing is the thing. And again, it's a really important point, and so maybe it bears repeating. That is the largest single cost in any household budget. So maybe the price of eggs wouldn't be so intimidating to you if your housing costs were under control. And you can actually, like, just on a percentage basis, make a much bigger impact there because it is such a large cost out of every monthly paycheck. So I think that's where we're going to stay fixated, is seeing if we can get some major housing legislation. And by the way, Congress has not passed a major housing bill really in decades. So this would be historic and hopefully move the needle in conjunction with the efforts we're making. And as he said, we're not only spending bipartisan infrastructure bill dollars in our communities, we're spending our own dollars too. So that alignment is there for the taking, and it could make an impact.